On the Finance Bill 2024, I'm still with Kuria Kimani, the chairperson of the Finance and Planning Committee, and Derito Murithi, who is the former governor of Laikipia County, but also an economist. And we've gone up to the extent of highlighting some of the key concerns about bread and motor vehicle. And let's start from the point of Honorable Kuria, because you are saying that you will listen to Kenyans. But first of all, please tell me, what is the justification of raising the VAT on bread from 0 to 16%?
Mm-hmm. We had a very long conversation with the Long Treasury, with the National Treasury, on this VAT on fuel. The initial thinking was maybe bread has there's a concern about diabetes and all that, but the arguments that we're receiving from Kenyans is bread is not a luxury good. Bread is something that people have every morning for breakfast, every time, and it's taken by across the people. So that's why I said, Sam, all these are proposals.
Sorry, you're saying that the concern is that there's a lot of diabetes in the country?
That is the argument that was given by National Treasury.
So there's a study showing that it's coming from bread?
I'm not from National Treasury, Sam. I'm saying we are listening, and I really want, and this is the message I really want to pass today to Kenyans, that we have received these proposals from National Treasury. We are asking Kenyans, what are your views about it? And as a committee, we'll weigh what is the National Treasury saying, what are Kenyans saying, and have an informed decision on this and say, what is the impact of this? For example, some of the arguments that have been raised on VAT on bread, to give an example, is that in addition to bread that in the supermarkets, there's also bread that is baked, on those informal shops across the country. And if you tax then the bread that is in the market, then what will end up doing is that people will move away from that form of bread to other loaves of bread that are baked by the roadside and by these small bakeries, which could mean even more health deterioration for people, or raise even more health concerns. That's why I said Sam, and I really want to reiterate this. These are proposals. And the Committee of Finance and National Planning is inviting you Kenyans to give us what are your views about it.
So what are the possibilities? Because already you're hearing Kenyans.
So there are three possibilities. Bread has been zero rated. So the three options are: it continues to attract 16% of VAT, that makes it govtable, as it proposed in the bill. The other option is to make bread tax exempt, okay, or take it back to zero rated. So all these three proposals are the proposals available to us. And after listening to the members of the public, these are proposals that we'll put in consideration when we're doing our report, and report to plenary and Parliament, the National Assembly, then we'll make a decision about it.
Honorable Derito, so last year there was, I think, a tax that was introduced on sugar, imported sugar, 5 shillings per kilogram. And the argument from the mouth of Cabinet Secretary Professor Njuguna Ndongo, he said that it is because of the increasing cases of diabetes. When did this become a foundation of introducing taxes? And from experience, does it even work to deal with such an issue about non-communicable diseases?
Honestly, sometimes you have to almost sympathize with the professional colleagues. You see, sometimes you're asked to defend the indefensible. And I think that many colleagues serving in this regime find themselves in that purpose. I mean, you know very well that in economies that are well managed, taxes is not just about raising revenue. Taxes are in fact often used as an incentive in this manner. When you want to stimulate your economy, you bring taxes down. And you will see, for instance, in the UK, that's what is going on now, because they are interested in stimulating growth. Because it is by getting growth that you widen the tax base. So look, as I said, perhaps I may not speak for the Cabinet Secretary, but you know that cannot be the case. The thing is like this. This year, I hear the chair saying the number is 301 billion. What was in the budget policy statement as new revenue collection was 324. Nonetheless, it's over 300 billion. Now, the question is, from where are you going to get this additional 301 or 324 billion? And then you end up doing these things that are making Kenyans obviously a little bit irritated. and with good reason. Now, the correct way to have approached this is to ask, and I like it that the chair is saying the same thing, that look, let us start on the expenditure side. Why must we spend on these things? So what the administration should be answering, why must we renovate a state house or any other government facility now? Why do we need new vehicles now? Why must you duplicate county functions? You know, in health, in water, in the roads sector, and so on. Why must you do those things? Surely we can do without those. And we thought, certainly we in the opposition, when you know, the regime said that they wanted to pursue a balanced budget, when they have been writing in the documents that they want to do fiscal consolidation, which is big English for saying we'll try and live within our means. I mean, we have been upfront to say we like these proposals, please pursue, because we know you will never be able to tax ourselves into prosperity. Okay. So I would rather, I know we are debating specifics on bread, on financial services, what is likely impact of this motor vehicle tax, on the insurance services itself, and on transportation services. But I also think we should discuss the principle. Okay. And I agree with the chair that start on the expenditure side, because you cannot continue to live with beyond your means and expect that you will tax and you will borrow ourselves to prosperity. It cannot happen. It has not happened in any country. All right. So and I want to just, if you allow, 2 quick points. One of the things about the way the finance bill is presented, it is my view, and I hope the current team can look to improve it. Even members of parliament cannot tell specifically, when you say delete this clause, what is the actual money impact? And I think the finance bill should be presented better, that each proposed measure is explained and you show which is the adjustment you're making in the Income Tax Act or VAT or excise. Right. And above all, what is the amount? You asked the chair earlier of this tax, you know, how much does he hope to raise? And he said 301 billion. I wonder if he could be able to tell us, you know, this, for example, motor vehicle circulation tax, how many billions will it raise? This tax on bread, how much billions will it raise? This financial, you know, like that. So that even for him and his committee and parliament, they can debate with full information. Okay. Finally, on it, incentives, I say again, tax is not just about getting monies to spend. Tax should also be about how do you incentivize. I said to you again about coffee. Unless, and this is the argument President Museveni has been making, unless we can invest in distribution and retail, which is what European countries in North America do, we will never be able to get a bigger pie out of the value chain of coffee. Right. The question then for the tax person would be, how can I use tax policy to incentivize Kenyan cooperative societies so that they are buying, they become shareholders of Starbucks and other retailers like that. I hear you. That's how to move forward. I hear you. And Honorable Kure, I want us to engage a little bit on the motor vehicle tax, because you've added a name and you're calling it motor vehicle circulation tax. I don't know if that is contained in the document or where it's coming from. But you're also saying that people are telling you that people who have high-end cars that are more expensive than 4 million shillings will still pay 100,000 in tax, and therefore there's a feeling of that is unfair. But before you even get into the details, what is the justification for motor vehicle tax? At a time that, you know, in this country, if you're importing a car from outside, you pay so much of taxation, sometimes close to even double the landed cost at the port of Mombasa. You're also paying taxation, 76% of the landed cost of fuel. There's a road maintenance levy of 18 shillings every litre of petrol or diesel that you buy. Therefore, the people who own motor vehicles or who operate motor vehicles are already paying so much taxation. Why then some more? I totally agree that the taxation or the motor vehicles tax on motor vehicles is going to impact directly on motor vehicle users. But the conversation that I also encourage us to have is, what does this do? The motor vehicle circulation tax, as proposed, and I think I repeat, as proposed, is going to raise 52
58.02 billion shillings.
50? Sorry?
58.02 billion shillings. If the bill passes as it is.
Yep.
Now, in Kenya, one of the greatest challenges we've had is that we've not had serious investment on public transport. And that is why all of us feel the need to use our motor vehicles, because movement from one place to another is really chaos. There was a proposal by the last administration to do the BRT project. And hopefully, the project was hoping to attract a public-private investment, which never happened. We have the radio development, the road maintenance development levy that's supposed to go into maintenance of our roads. With now the impact of floods happening in this country, it is quite clear that the money collected on road and maintenance development levy is not going to be sufficient to maintain our roads, and that is really a fact. And I think the other day I had the Cabinet Secretary for Transport saying that we actually need 30 additional billion shillings to repair the roads. So the question that we should ask ourselves, so who should pay for these repairs? On one hand, and that is why last financial year...
You think it should be the people who own motor vehicles?
Let me finish my point, Sam.
Yeah.
Last financial year, and I really want this to sink to Kenyans, because last finance bill became a conversation about the housing levy and VAT on fuel. And we missed out on 82 other clauses that were on that bill. And unfortunately, I see the same happening this year.
No,
but the finance bill, hold on.
Honorable Kuria, please, let's deal with specifics. I will. We'll get to that, but please answer my question, because I also want to hear from Kenyans.
So the justification...
So 58.02 billion shillings from motor vehicle. What is the justification of taxing people who have already paid import duty? They continue to pay fuel taxes. And I'm telling you, it's 76% of the landed cost of petrol, for instance.
The only discussion that you do not want us to have is that what is the import of this on the expenditure side? When we have that...
No, before you tell me about the...
Because, come on, Sam. You know what is really unfair?
Someone owns a car.
You know what's really unfair, Sam?
Yes.
We're going to spend all this time talking about the finance bill. And I told you, the responsibility is raised 301 billion shillings for the budget. On the other hand, I was watching news and everyone saying our roads are broken. We are not able to move from one place to the other.
What is the justification that to fix the roads, you go to the owners of motor vehicles? That's what I'm asking.
Yes. So let me say, the other alternative to finance that particular option, and this actually option came to the table, that what if we increased VAT from 16% to 18%, for example? And that was going to try to build the 560 billion resource gap, the budget deficit in our budget. And we are saying, when you increase VAT, you're increasing VAT for everyone, whether they are using that service or not. So can we say then, why the person who are greatly benefiting from these good roads, who are they? They are actually the users of motor vehicles, and that is a fact. So we are saying that the person who is using this particular service, it's important that that particular...
But they're already paying you tax, 18 shillings every litre.
Who is not paying... Yes, and who is not paying... And everyone in this country, Sam, is paying tax. And let me repeat that example. So fine, let's increase VAT from 16% to 20% to repair our roads.
No, before we get there, you know, we're dealing with the proposals that's contained in the finance bill.
Yes.
And please, let's be very specific. So tell me, the justification to tax a motor vehicle, what is it? Because this is just a tool. It's not a business. It's not an income. And actually, it's contained in the income tax amendments.
Sam, what is the justification in taxing VAT on use of a service?
Please don't answer with a question.
I am, because your question is ambiguous. It's really ambiguous, because the payment of taxes.
Clarify.
The payment of taxes, Sam, when you bought that computer that you're using, which you're using for business, you pay taxes on it, didn't you?
When I bought it, yes.
So the same thing we're saying, and when you use the internet on that laptop, you're paying taxes on that internet that you're using.
Correct.
So the issue of paying taxes...
So do you want to tax the computer as well?
Don't go there, Sam. I'm not saying.
No. I mean, it's the same.
The same logic. So if you're using that computer,
you're using that computer, which you pay is the fuel, isn't it?
That computer you're using, you pay tax on it. Okay, you paid import duty on it. You paid
value-added tax.
You paid value-added tax on it. When you're using that laptop for internet, you're even paying tax on that internet you're using. Yes, you paid import duty on your car. I agree 100%. But then the introduction of this particular cannot be argued the way you're arguing, Sam, with all all, and you know...
I'm not arguing, I'm asking you a question. If you have an answer, I'd be glad to hear from
the same way we have for all the other consumption taxes. We pay
Is
VAT.
a vehicle consumption, really?
Is your laptop consumption?
It's not a consumption, it's a tool for my work.
Do you pay tax on it?
When I get a salary, I pay as you earn.
And do you pay tax on your laptop?
No.
Are you sure when you bought your laptop, you paid tax on it?
I paid when I bought
when
it.
When you use data on that laptop, you pay tax on it.
The data
so really,
in the vehicle is the fuel, and there's taxation on fuel.
I may not... what I really want to emphasize here, Sam, and I really want Kenyans to hear this. This discussion is not complete until we have a discussion on the expenditure side. And that is what you do not want us to discuss.
And that is true.
I watch your news.
Sorry, Honorable Kuria, I called you to discuss Finance Bill 2024. If you don't have an answer, it's okay, just tell me you don't have an answer. But I'm asking you,
I've tried to explain
a motor vehicle is an asset that you buy. If you're an individual, it is for you to use it to move around.
Yeah.
If it's a business, for instance, a matatu, you ferry passengers. The income you get, you pay income tax on it,
okay.
or yes. on the business itself. So isn't that an element of double taxation, or what justification do you give to tax an asset, which is almost like this laptop?
Let me try to attempt to answer your question using an example of land. If you buy land, and you just have the land sitting idle, you pay stamp duty on it, whether you use your land or not. In fact, when you transfer that land to someone else, you pay CGT, capital gains tax on that.
You pay stamp duty for owning land?
When you're buying land, there's
at the transfer, yes. At the purchase point, yes.
You pay, so it's land rates. You pay land rates on your land. Mm-hmm. So you bought some land in Molo. You don't use it. But every year, you pay land tax on it.
If it's not freehold, yes.
And that is how governments across the globe use ways to finance the expenditure side, which I'm saying, let's have a discussion about the expenditure side, which you do not want us to have. So if a person who has idle land in Kamulu is paying land rates on it, and when they transfer their land that they bought with their own money, after paying taxes, they still pay
so if you have to use, I want to hear from Governor Nderitu here, if you have to use your land and grow maize and sell that maize, there is a farming income tax that you'll have to pay.
Yes.
Will you also pay tax on that land?
If you use any land in Kenya, every non-freehold land in Kenya attracts land rates on it. And when you transfer...
No.
I said every non-freehold land.
Land rates.
I said every non-freehold land, they pay land rates to the government. That is a fact. Whether it is a land that you're using for commercial purposes or not, when you transfer that land and in fact, you actually pay CGT tax on it. But the question is capital gains tax. But the question here, Sam, and really, I really want to add to Kenyans on this. I watched your news at 1 p.m. about the public participation in Kisumu, where everyone was saying, we need roads, we need market, there are stall projects here. Then, the same way we're having this conversation about our revenues, we wouldn't talk about the finance bill if we slash our budget to 300 billion. So Sam, fine. Next time we have this interview, let's talk about the budget. Let's slash 300 billion from it.
Let's hear from Governor Nderitu. It's been quite for some time.
Yes.
But I have to register here that I have not gotten an answer from you on the justification for motor vehicle tax. Would you have any?
It is possible to tax less and still be able to undertake the development projects that the chair is talking about. Mm. For instance, government today is paying 18% on infrastructure bonds when they borrow. Mm-hmm. And those infrastructure bonds are tax-free. I notice in his bill, in fact, he's trying to remove that tax-free status. And I would agree with him because I think infrastructure bonds have been abused. They were supposed to be for specific projects, not for general budget support. But so, if government is pursuing correct policy, you can bring down interest rates to 2%, 3%, 4%. And that has happened before, just in living memory, 20 years ago. So it is possible to do so. And what you then see is that you are releasing hundreds of billions of shillings in just interest payments alone. So it's about prudent management. I also disagree with the chair that the only plausible way to raise money to repair our roads is if we take a specific tax that then causes a number of things. One, poses a great risk on the insurance side, and two, in all likelihood, increases the cost of transport services. It's not the only plausible way to find resources. For instance, he wants 58 billion from this tax. You know, I wonder if we simply postponed these renovations, you know, how many billions we would save. You know, if we simply stopped buying luxury cars, how many billions we would save. If we simply stopped all this travel, how many, you know. So it is not the only option, and I hope the chair and his committee does agree. But we go back to...
Is there justification to...
There is no justification whatsoever. There is no justification whatsoever. As I said you know, a few minutes ago, taxation, you must never look at it just as a means of raising tax. Remember that because tax is a cost, the way you move it around affects economic activity. In the world over, when you want to stimulate your economy, the first thing you try and do is lower taxes so as to incentivize business to do more. And what I am seeing our colleagues doing is the opposite. There is no justification whatsoever in doing it.
Okay.
But we go back to this question now, which you have asked the chair repeatedly. Will plenary agree with him that we expect him and his committee to listen to Kenyans when they bring their views to him? And they are already, he has said, they're already telling him this motor vehicle circulation tax is going to bring a lot of problems in the economy, financial services, taxes, and so on. Now, if he is persuaded by the citizens and he goes to plenary, will plenary hear him and reduce or eliminate these taxes? That is the big question. And
you're assuming that will be the suggestion, the proposal by the committee?
Well, the chair has said, since yesterday, he has already been receiving many proposals telling him the motor vehicle circulation tax is untenable. I said, if he and his committee are persuaded, then they put it in their report and they go to the plenary of the National Assembly. Will our MPs vote for the citizen this year, or are they going to do like last year, then give us excuses that they have not led the report or the finance bill? I think that's the big question.
All right, let's take a look at some few questions from Kenyans on what they're saying about the finance bill of 2024 as we approach towards the end of the conversation. And Honorable Kuri, as we wait for those messages, last year you introduced affordable housing levy, and this was to address the housing question. Now you're introducing motor vehicle tax to address the roads question. And I remember asking you, might we find ourselves in a situation where there's an education levy to fix education?
If you allow,
there's one for health. Chief.
If you allow me, can I add a question to him that he can answer both? In his bill this year, he's proposing to make an amendment in the housing levy bill or act that was just passed not so long ago. And the effect of that amendment that he is seeking is to, when you withdraw, if you withdraw the savings, because remember, after May, whatever, they eventually said, okay, look, pay it because it's a saving. But now, if you withdraw that savings, those savings, they are now going to be subject to tax. That's in section 61 of his current bill.
So first of all, Sam, part of the lessons you've learned from the last budget cycle is the impact the Finance Act, actually the Affordable Housing Act of 2024, SHIF and NSSF adjustment has had on employees' disposable incomes. And you've seen Kenyans, tell us they're taking home a lot more. Some of the pay slips have actually gone down to more than a third of what they're taking home. And in this amendment, you now see the proviso to make all those statutory deductions tax allowable for pay.
And what does that mean?
Which means that the take-home salary for especially the salary people is going to increase. Your pay slip, if the recommendation...
Sorry, if I pay affordable housing levy of 5,000 shillings...
And you pay...
And you're making it
Chief,
a tax deductible. Let's talk about 5,000 first. So what is the relief?
let me add.
Well, but why shouldn't it have been tax deductible in the first place?
Let me add another one. We have contributions made for pensions. So before, contributions to pensions were capped at 20%, at 20,000 shillings. We've now increased that to up to 30,000. Why are we saying now your pension that you're paying, the amount of money you're paying for your pension as a saving for your pension, the affordable housing levy and SHIF are actually tax allowable now for tax purposes.
So tell me, if my affordable housing levy is 5,000 shillings, based on the proposals of the finance bill, what is the relief?
It would, Sam, you need to check the tariffs, the pay tariffs. You know, the first tariff is at 15% and 5%. It depends how much you're earning. But either way, it means that if the proposals pass as they are, it means that employed people are actually going to take home more than they were taking in the last finance bill. They're taking this month before the enactment of this finance bill. That is a fact.
If you charge housing levy of 1.5%, assuming it's 5,000 shillings, and you give a relief of 15% of these 5,000 shillings, for instance, that is just about 750 shillings.
And that's a lot of money to many Kenyans, Sam. And let me give an example of someone who earns 100,000 shillings. 1.5% housing levy of that is 15,000 shillings. 3% of that is... 750 might not mean a lot to some people, but to many people, it's going to mean a lot. I'm not talking about the housing levy alone. I've told you that housing levy and SHIF, and remember, with the removal of the capping again for SHIF, it means that a lot of Kenyans are paying a lot of money for SHIF. So when you remove these tax deductions, actually, and that is a fact, you know, Sam. Facts are stubborn. The fact remains is a disposable income of salaried people is going to be, if the proposals in the bill pass are there.
All right, Honorable Kuria, you see, the same people you're talking about are the owners of motor vehicles that you want to tax up to 100,000 shillings every year. The feedback from Kenyans at Citizen TV Kenya, at Sam Gituku, the hashtag to use is Citizen Tonight. Let's see. The Maestro, you're saying that... does the proposal for motor vehicle circulation tax also target the government vehicles used by officials, that is elected, nominated and appointed, or is it only targeting the other Kenyans who drive from point A to point B just to make ends meet?
The other Kenyans.
The other Kenyans.
Government vehicles.
I think, just note it down. I'll give you a chance. Let's take a look at someone else. Len Kumek, you're saying now that Kuria Kimani said that we shouldn't use our cars if we don't want to pay motor vehicle tax, should the same principle not apply to housing levy? As in, if I don't want a house, why should I not be exempted from paying housing levy?
Precise.
I think this is based on your recent interview. Then finally, ask the Chair of Finance, is public participation an honest process or just a ceremonial process following what we saw in the last financial year? Is it an activity just for the court process, or is it genuinely to listen to majority of Kenyans on what they have to say? I think, Governor, you go first.
Yeah, I would say like this. Firstly, public participation is not used genuinely. If it were used genuinely, then the way, the views of Kenyans then would be taken into account in recalibrating the finance bill. On the question of government and public vehicles by public officials, they're actually exempt in the proposed bill, or in the proposals in the bill.
Is that fair?
Well, it's absolutely, of course, not fair. And what I really also want to emphasize, I know the Chair is saying, oh, look, we have brought some reliefs on the SHIF contributions, on housing levy contributions. You see, it's like this. You already imposed a draconian tax, and then you come back and say, look, I'm going to see if I can help you a little bit. Well, why was the draconian tax necessary in the first place? You see, the thing is this, and we know that, this administration has said they want to take taxation from, 12 or 14% of GDP to 22% of GDP. And I want to explain to Kenyans that this is a false kind of target. You see, the Kenyan economy has by and large grown because of public sector expenditure, roads, standard gauge railway, and so on. And that's okay. The thing, though, is that figure, although it is in the GDP, it does not produce taxes right away. So if you insist that, oh, because now the ratio of taxes to GDP has gone lower, I need to just do it for purposes of fulfilling legal provisions.
Like a ritual.
Like a ritual. And I think it would be really genuine. Now, it has been asked, and you allow me to say this, Sam, because I am one of the organizers of this Rimuru 3 tomorrow, and I feel bad when our colleagues on the government side think they have to call us names because we are doing something useful for Kenyans. Look, if what I'm doing and my colleagues is not of value, why are you bothered about it? Pilipili usioila inakuacha kwa nini? We are Kenyans. We want to get together and reflect on where we are taking our economy in the central region, a key part of the economy of this country. Everybody should do it as well and support what we're doing. And honestly, to colleagues in government, it's, look, this is pale politics from 2 centuries ago. Democratic Kenya, we all have a right to assemble, to talk to one another. We want to debate. I want to talk. I will be talking economics tomorrow. And I will be talking about how can we leverage the manufacturing base in central Kenya in order to have a bigger economy in Kenya. How can that be wrong?
Okay, and Honorable Kuria, you'll have the final word. Maybe you can quickly respond to some of those questions raised, but also to explain the road to 22% of revenue, of tax revenue against the GDP.
Thank you very much, Sam. And this is a very robust conversation, and I really like it. And this is the beauty of democracy. This is the beauty of the draft of our constitution, that we would be seated here and Kenyans seated across the country would have a say on how their money is being taxed and how their expenditures are being made. My main appeal is don't just focus on the 2 clauses on the finance bill. The finance bill has around 84 other clauses. Please internalize them, give us your views, and I want to assure you that your views will count when the Committee of Finance and National Planning is going to make their recommendations. On the specific questions asked, on government vehicles, I think there's assumption that members of parliament, especially elected and nominated, don't pay taxes. I want to say that the times when we didn't pay taxes is years ago. With the coming of the constitution, I still pay my payee and fuel and affordable housing levy. I know these are the taxes. So,
but official vehicles are exempted.
So if these officials then
the fleet of the deputy president and the president, they will not pay tax.
One of the things that I think should be the right thing to do, is to make sure that that if there are going to be a motor vehicle tax, then should apply to all vehicles, so that if this government officials have to reduce the fleet of numbers of vehicles, the number in the fleet of vehicles that they use, then they have to do that, because I think everyone should pay tax. On the issue of public participation, the last finance bill had 84 clauses. Out of those 84, we made amendments to 36 of them. If you check the published finance bill of 2023 and check the Finance Act of 2023, there are fundamental changes. And later, when now there was now a proposal now to do an affordable housing bill, if you check the affordable housing bill as it came to Parliament and the Affordable Housing Act, there are fundamental changes, all of which changes were recommendations that we got from members of the public. So I want to inform Kenyans that as we conduct this public participation starting next week, it is not an academic exercise, it's an exercise in futility. In any case, we have a recourse, we have a very aggressive judiciary, and that's why we've seen
but you know what happened last time,
several clauses being, that's why some of those clauses are expunged. So we are going to do the right thing, because again, even if National Assembly does not do the right thing, the courts will. So it is upon all of us as a country to do the right thing. And as Sam, I really want us to be as robust as we are on the finance bill, as we are on the expenditure side. And if we cut the budget by 300 billion, if we cut the budget by 300 billion, we can as well not have all these additional measures on the finance bill.
But how much were you hoping to raise from Finance Act 2023?
We're hoping to raise 382 billion.
The current act?
Yeah, the current act.
382.
If my numbers are correct. And so,
how much have you collected so far?
We've missed our revenues by around, in the new additional measures, we missed by around 60 billion. 60 billion. But still higher by around 10% of what was raised the previous year. So even though we missed the targets, or even though Treasury missed the targets, it still was an improvement to that to the revenues that were raised previously.
So with this bill of 2024, so how much should be the ordinary revenue collected by KRA in 2024-2025?
We should expect around one. I don't have the numbers here, but for the finance bill itself, we expect to raise 302 billion shillings. The new additional measures expected 302 billion shillings. The additional tax measures on the finance.
Okay, all right.
We raise 302 billion shillings. If it passes as proposed.
What Kenyans should know, Sam, if you allow, is that if you look at the budget policy statement, the intention of the administration is to raise taxes every year by between 300 billion and 400 billion. Just look at the budget policy statement. The intention is that by 2027, the tax collection should have doubled.
Okay. And we have to leave it at that. There's still so many questions that we haven't raised, so many clauses that we haven't touched, but I'm sure we'll be calling you again to have this conversation. Please, Finance Chair, when I call, pick a call. All right? Kimani, Kuria Kimani is the chairperson of the Finance and Planning Committee. Nderitu Mureithi is the immediate former governor of Laikipia, but also will be attending the Limuru 3 conference tomorrow.